Okay, Chief Chair, committee members, and participants, we are now live.
Good morning, everyone. This is the Committee on Rules on Wednesday, June the 14th of 2023. I'm Chairman Councilman Kenyatta Johnson. I understand that the state law currently requires that the following announcement be made at the beginning of every remote public hearing. The current public health emergency, city council committees are currently meeting remotely. We are using Microsoft Teams to make these remote hearings possible. Instructions for how the public may view and offer public testimony at public hearings of council committees are included in the public hearing notices that are published in the Daily News, Enquirer, and Legal Intelligencer prior to the hearings and can also be found on phlcouncil.com. Will the clerk please call the roll to take attendance? Members that are in attendance will please indicate they are present when their names are called. Also, please say a few brief words when responding so that your image will be displayed on the screen when you speak. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Curtis Jones Jr.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I am present. Good morning, colleagues.
Councilmember Cindy Bass.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and colleagues and the viewing public. I am present.
Councilmember Mark Squilla.
Morning, Mr. Chair and colleagues. Present.
Councilmember Brian O'Neill.
Good morning, everyone.
And also present, we have Councilmember Ketsi Lozada.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I am present.
Thank you. A quorum of the committee is present, and this hearing is now called to order. This is the public hearing of the Committee on Rules regarding bills numbers 230-407, 230-410, 230-412, 230-437, 230-440, 230-442, 230-443, 230-446, 230-447, 230-448, and 230-455. Will the clerk please read the title of the bills? And it's a lot of them.
Yes. Bill number 230440, an ordinance amending section 14-406 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Sports Stadium Special Purpose District by expanding allowable signage in an area bounded by North Access Road, 11th Street, Terminal Avenue, and Broad Street, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 230407, an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designation of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Bristol Street, Old York Road, Huntington Park Avenue, and Park Avenue. Bill number 230410, an ordinance amending Chapter 14-500 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Overlay Zoning Districts to add an overlay district pertaining to injection sites for narcotics, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 230412, an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by the Schuylkill River, Passyunk Avenue, 61st Street, Lindbergh Boulevard, Grays Avenue, 49th Street, Pascal Avenue, and Grays Ferry Avenue. Bill number 230437, an ordinance amending section 14-503 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Neighborhood Commercial Area Overlay District by amending the East Falls Neighborhood Commercial Review Area and making related changes, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 230442, an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Folkrod Street, Hawthorne Street, Margaret Street, and Duffield Street. Bill number 230443, an ordinance amending section 14-500 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Overlay Zoning Districts by creating a new subsection entitled Warrington Affordable Housing Overlay District, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 230446, an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designation of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by 54th Street, Chester Avenue, 55th Street, and Regent Street. Bill number 230447, an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by 50th Street, Springfield Avenue, SEPTA roadway right-of-way, and Warrington Avenue. Bill number 230448, an ordinance amending Chapter 14-500 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Overlay Zoning Districts by amending Section 14-514 entitled Far Northeast Overlay District, Section 14-515 entitled Northeast Overlay District, and Section 14-524 entitled Fourth District Overlay District by creating regulations for medical marijuana, all under certain terms and conditions. And finally, Bill number 230455, an ordinance amending the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Johnson Street, Morton Street, Tolpakin Street, and SEPTA Chestnut Hill East Line, Haynes Street, Germantown Avenue, Rittenhouse Street, McCallum Street, Harvey Street, Washington Lane, Cherokee Street, and amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning to revise certain provisions of 14-503 entitled Neighborhood Commercial Area Overlay District by amending the provisions of the Germantown Avenue Overlay District, all under certain terms and conditions.
Before we begin to hear testimony from the witnesses we have for today, everyone who has been invited to the meeting to testify should be aware that this public hearing is being recorded. Because the hearing is public, participants and viewers have no reasonable expectation of privacy. By continuing to be in the meeting, you are considering this to being recorded. Additionally, prior to recognizing members for the questions or comments they have for witnesses, I will note for the record at this time that we will use the chat feature available in Microsoft Teams to allow members to signify that they wish to be recognized. In order to comply with the Sunshine Act, the chat feature must only be used for this purpose. Will the clerk please call the panel for Bill number 230440?
For 230440, we have Paula Brumlow Burns speaking. We also have available for questions regarding the bill Dick Hayden, Phil Laws, and Joe Mead.
Go ahead, Paula, just state your name and title for the record and begin your testimony. How you doing today?
I'm great. Good morning, members of the Rules Committee. I am Paula Brumlow Burns, Director of Legislation for the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I'm here to testify on Bill number 230440, introduced into City Council on May 25th, 2023 by Councilmember Johnson. Bill number 230440 amends the Philadelphia Zoning Code by amending the SPSTA Sports Stadium District by expanding allowable signage maximums for the Wells Fargo Center located in South Philadelphia. This bill will permit a significant expansion of the allowable signage at the Wells Fargo Center. It will allow for the placement on the exterior walls of the arena of 3 signs with animated digital illumination measuring to a cumulative of 13,000 square feet. Currently, the building is limited to a maximum of 1,000 square feet. The bill also contains regulations that will limit the hours from 6 a.m. to midnight, require automatic dimming during periods of darkness, limit the distance from Broad Street, and limit the location of the sign to below the roof line. The proposed sign along I-95 will also be reviewed by PennDOT. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission considered Bill number 230440 at its meeting on June 8th, 2023, and recommended that the bill be approved. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from members of the committee? Okay, hearing none. Will the clerk please call the next panel for Bill number 230407?
For 230407, we have Paula Brumlow Burns, and also available for questions, we have Brett Feldman and Janet Stearns.
Paula, please state your name for the title. Please begin your testimony.
I am Paula Brumlow Burns, Director of Legislation for the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I am here to testify on Bill number 230407, introduced into City Council on behalf of Council President Clark on May 11th, 2023 by Councilmember Jones Jr. Bill number 230407 amends the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designation of land within an area bounded by Bristol Street, Old York Road, Hunting Park, and Park Avenues in the Hunting Park neighborhood. This bill will change the zoning of 2.75 acres of land from RSA 3, residential single family attached, to CMX 2.5 and CMX 3 commercial mixed-use districts. This zoning change will facilitate the development of affordable housing for Project Home. This action supports the citywide vision to promote new affordable housing developments to strengthen existing neighborhood assets. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission considered Bill number 230407 at its meeting on June 8, 2023, and recommended that the bill be approved. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Any questions or comments from members of the committee? Okay, hearing none. Anyone else here to testify on this bill? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the next panel for bill number 230437?
For 230437, we have Paula Brumlow Burns, Michelle Feldman, and Hillary Langer.
Thank you, Paula. State your name and title for the record, and please begin your testimony.
I am Paula Brumlow Burns, Director of Legislation for the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I am here to testify on Bill number 230437, introduced into City Council on May 25th, 2023, by Councilmember Jones Jr. Bill number 230437 amends the Philadelphia Zoning Code by amending Section 14-503, Neighborhood Commercial Overlay Districts, by amending the East Falls Neighborhood Commercial Review Area. This bill updates the existing NCA with language to match current zoning code requirements and expands the boundary to include commercial properties on Conrad Street. A facade review for new buildings will now be required. Parking reductions for car share and bicycle parking spaces will be removed. Off-site and shared parking requirement updates will make it easier for businesses to create parking arrangements. Lastly, this bill will change the height and building requirements for CMX 3 commercial mixed use by increasing the minimum height and building frontage. The intent behind the proposed changes is to promote economic development and promote better building design. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission considered Bill number 230437 at its meeting on June 8, 2023, and recommended that the bill be approved. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions or comments from members of the committee?
Mr. Chairman, yes, please.
Councilman Curtis Jones.
Thank you so much. I just want to point out for members of the committee and people on this team's meeting that it is very rare that all of these entities cooperate in a unified way to assure that design and development in East Falls happens in a uniform way. There is such a thing as too much of a good thing. We've come to know that, but for the record, the Planning Commission, the CDC, the Community Council, all collaborated on this bill and came up with a consensus.
Phone on mute, please. Go ahead, Councilman Jones.
And came up with a consensus that I think is good for the community, good for the city, and I heartily support this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. As always, Councilman Jones, good job doing your due diligence. Any other questions or comments from members of the committee? Anyone else here to testify on this bill? Hearing none, would the clerk please call the next panel for bill number 230?
Mr. Chair, we also have Michelle Feldman and Hillary Langer.
Oh, okay. Michelle, please state your name for the record and begin your testimony.
Hi, my name is Michelle Feldman, and I'm the Executive Director of the East Falls Development Corporation. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today regarding Bill 230437. And my name is Michelle, as I said, and I'm speaking in my capacity as the Director of EFDC in support of the proposed changes to the East Falls zoning overlay contained within the bill being considered today. Our mission at EFDC is to grow our neighborhood economy by supporting our small businesses along Ridge and Midvale and Conrad Street commercial corridors. We do this through one-on-one technical assistance, proactively attracting new commerce to East Falls, and working diligently to bring large-scale investments to our business districts to make them more vibrant, walkable, inclusive, and healthy. Zoning shapes our ability to fulfill that mission, and our organization believes the changes proposed in Bill 230437 meaningfully addresses multiple key priorities, ensuring East Falls is friendly to our existing small businesses and those that would like to open a business in our neighborhood while preserving the character of our community and its buildings. Further, we are excited that this bill was crafted in partnership with Councilman Jones and his staff, as well as our local registered community organization, the East Falls Community Council. The East Falls Development Corporation believes this demonstrates important and widespread support for this bill. Again, thank you for your time and consideration today.
Thank you. Hillary Langer.
Thank you. My name is Hilary Langer. I am the chair of the East Falls Zoning Committee for the last 3 years. I've been engaged in monitoring projects through the zoning process, probably over the course of about 100 meetings and a lot of different projects. So those of us on the zoning committee who are engaged in monitoring development have a pretty good idea of what would constitute good development in our neighborhood. So we have been collaborating with Development Corporation over the last 9 months and to develop this update to the existing NCA. We took it to a community meeting on Monday. We had about 40 to 50 attendees. The recommendation of those attending the community meeting was that this bill should go forward. We would like to see the NCA updated, but just one point. When we left the meeting, it was agreed that the boundary would be pulled back from Conrad Street and that this would be the subject of a future NCA update that we plan on occurring after this summer recess. So I want to make that point that that the boundary does not extend to include Conrad Street at this point. That was communicated to the councilman's office and city planning.
Okay, thank you, Hillary. Any other questions or comments from members of the committee? Anyone else here to testify on this bill? Okay, hearing none, will the clerk please call the next panel for bill number 230455?
For 230455, we have Paula Brumblo Burns.
Thank you, Paula. State your name and title for the record and please begin your testimony.
I am Paula Brumblo Burns, Director of Legislation for the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I am here to testify on Bill number 230455, introduced into City Council on May 25th, 2023 by Councilmember Bass. Bill number 230455 amends the Philadelphia Zoning Code and Maps by changing the zoning for an area known as Germantown North and revising provisions of Chapter 14-503 by amending the provisions of the Germantown Avenue NCA Overlay District. This bill represents the Germantown North community remapping, which is a neighborhood-scale effort to align the zoning map with community preferences, existing land uses, and recommendations from the Upper Northwest District Plan. The goals in the proposed zoning map changes include reinforcing Germantown Avenue with new jobs and homes, limiting housing construction in flood-prone areas along Belfield Avenue, and preventing the establishment of new heavy industrial uses. In addition to the updates to the base zoning district, the ordinance includes an extension of the Germantown Avenue Neighborhood Commercial Area Overlay District. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission considered Bill number 230455 at its meeting on June 8th, 2023, and recommended that the bill be approved. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Any questions or comments from members of the committee?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I do have a question for Paula. Paula, it's my understanding I received an email this morning from Ann Fedulin that there needs to be an adjustment and that this bill needs to have a companion bill to go with it because it was incomplete as it was during its completion, which was through the planning department, that you all needed to do additional work on this bill. So I don't know if you could speak to that.
Yes, unfortunately, as you know, this bill went through many variations,
Yes.
and we sent the short title for a reduced area,
Mhm.
and we sent maps for a larger area. So
Okay,
we needed to amend the bill to match the short title, and we will need to put the additional larger area that
right.
all of the variations that went through, we just got to the short title and the maps confused. So we just need to introduce a new short title bill for the area that was not included in this bill, but we have the maps already made, and the maps that were presented to the planning commission and the community are the same maps. There will be no map changes.
Okay, so my question is, because it's a change in the title, does it mean that this bill can go forward, or do we need to start anew with a new bill, which was what the language I received from Ann, which is kind of the
Okay.
impression I had. But
Okay.
if we're able to proceed, that would be great, but I just wanted clarity on that.
We should be able to proceed. I believe the law department was writing the amendments.
Okay,
And what it is I'm going to get these numbers wrong, but if there were 12 maps, we can do maps 6 through 12, and maps 1 through 5 would be introduced in the second bill.
okay, very good. Thank you.
So I believe we can move forward. The law department said we can move forward, but it's just less. We're taking maps out of this bill to put into the next bill.
Okay, all right.
I'm
As
sorry
long-
for that confusion.
That's okay, as long as we can make sure that everything's done correctly and legal. That's all.
Yes, and
That's all.
our goal is to get you this bill for introduction next week.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank
All
you.
right. All right, thanks. Bye.
Any other questions or comments from members of the committee? Hearing none. Before I call on the next panel, I want to also acknowledge the presence of Councilman Kathleen Gilmore Richardson. Would the clerk please call the panel for bill number 230412?
For 230412, we have Paula Brumblo Burns, and we should also have Andy Maloney available for any questions.
Just state your name and title for the record and we can begin.
I'm Paula Brumblo Burns, Director of Legislation for the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I am here to testify on Bill number 230412, introduced into City Council on May 11th, 2023 by Councilmember Gautier. Bill number 230412 amends the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning of land bounded by the Schuylkill River, Passyunk Avenue, 61st Street, Lindbergh Boulevard, Grays Avenue, 49th Street, Pascal Avenue, and Grays Ferry Avenue in the King Sessing neighborhood. Penrose and Philadelphia Housing Authority requested this bill to redevelop the Bartram Village community as a result of a planning process that was given a HUD Choice Neighborhoods grant. This zoning will change the districts from RSA 5 residential single attached, RM1 residential multifamily, and SPPOA special purpose parks and open space to RMX3 residential mixed use, and will allow for Bartram Village to become a mixed use and mixed income site. The remapping also assists the reuse of an isolated RSA 5 parcel to an I2 industrial medium district that will be used by SEPTA for their planned trolley modernization project. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission considered Bill number 230412 at its meeting on June 8th, 2023, and recommended that the bill be approved. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Any questions or comments from members of the committee? Hearing none, is anyone else here to testify on this bill? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the panel for bill number 230446?
For 230446, we have Paula Brumblo Burns, and also available for questions, we have Darwin Bouvet.
Paula, state your name and title for the record and please begin your testimony.
I am Paula Brumblo Burns, Director of Legislation for the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I'm here to testify on Bill number 230446, introduced into City Council on May 25th, 2023 by Councilmember Gautier. Bill number 230446 amends the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning of land bounded by 54th Street, Chester Avenue, 55th Street, and Regent Street, which is located in the King Sessing neighborhood. This bill will change the zoning from CMX2 to CMX3 Commercial Mixed Use District. This zoning change will help facilitate the properties at 5432 to 36 Chester Avenue and 1511 to 17 South 55th Street to be developed as a multi-use building, including the Africa Center Community Center. Community centers use is not permitted in lower density mixed use districts. The location of a community center here will provide important services to the neighborhood that would not otherwise be generated by the private market. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission considered Bill number 230446 at its meeting on June 8, 2023, and recommended that the bill be approved. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from members of the committee? Hearing none. Anyone else here to testify on this bill? Okay, hearing none. Will the clerk please call the panel for bill number 230447? Brett, can you please call
My
the next panel?
apologies. My apologies, I was muted, Mr. Chair. Next, we will have to speak Paula Brumblo Burns for 230447. We also have a representative from Councilmember Gaudier's office to give a comment on the amendments for 230447 and 230443. If Sydney Sherolds would like to speak now, she may, or you can start prior to the next item.
Paula, could you begin your testimony, and then we'll allow, I see also Peter Kelson here as well, to make comments or be on standby for questioning, and then we'll also have the representative from Councilman Gaudier's office to make comments.
Thank you. I'm Paula Brumblo Burns, Director of Legislation for the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I am here to testify on Bill number 230447, introduced into City Council on May 25th, 2023 by Councilmember Gautier. Bill number 230447 amends the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning of a parcel bounded by 50th Street, Springfield Avenue, the SEPTA Railroad right-of-way, and Warrington Avenue in the Cedar Park neighborhood. This bill changes the zoning from an I2 medium industrial district to an RMX3 residential mixed-use district. The owner of the property plans to redevelop the site for an affordable housing project comprised of 104 units and 99 parking spaces. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission considered Bill number 230447 at its meeting on June 8th, 2023, and recommended that the bill be approved. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Is Peter Kelson also providing testimony? Brett?
If Mr. Peter Kelson is not available, will the representative from Councilmember Gaudier's office give their explanation of the amendments?
Good morning, Chair Johnson and members of the Rules Committee. My name is Sydney Sherolds, and I am the Director of Legislation and Policy for Councilmember Gaudier. The amendment to Bill 230447 is a technical amendment changing the sunset provisions of the bill from 4 years to 2 years to align with the change being made to its companion bill number 230443. Should I also reference 443, or should I wait until that item is called?
Can wait till we call up the next panel.
All right, that concludes my discussion of the amendments.
Okay, any other questions or comments, members of the committee? Anyone else here to testify on this bill, 230447? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the panel for bill number 230443?
For 230443, we have Paula Brumblo Burns and Peter Kelson.
Paula, just state your title for the record and please begin your testimony.
I'm Paula Brumbelow Burns, Director of Legislation for the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I'm here to testify on Bill number 230443, introduced into City Council on May 25th, 2023 by Councilmember Gautier. Bill number 230443 amends the Philadelphia Zoning Code by amending Section 14-500 of the Philadelphia Zoning Code by creating the Warrington Affordable Housing Overlay District located in the Cedar Park neighborhood. This bill accompanies the zoning map changes of Bill number 230447 to create an overlay that will apply to only one property. The project is currently designed with an accessory parking lot facing the street and 2 multifamily buildings behind the parking lot abutting railroad tracks. The overlay will allow 2 curb cuts on a single street frontage. Through the zoning code amendment, it will reduce the requirement of providing an 8-foot buffer between the parking lot and the street down to 5 feet. The landscape requirement for 10% of the parking area will also be reduced to 5% of the area. The City Planning Commission staff currently has the authority to waive the landscape requirements if there is a limitation to the property as defined in Bill number 220414, which updated the landscape requirements for parking lots. In our review of the plan and participation at Civic Design Review, it was recommended that there be a change to the plan's design while still providing the same number of residential units, which would make this overlay most likely unnecessary. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission considered Bill number 230443 at its meeting on June 8th, 2023, and recommended that the bill not be approved.
Any other questions or comments for him? Thank you for your testimony. Questions or comments from members of the committee? I do know we have a representative from Councilman Jamie Gautier's office. Please begin your comments.
Good morning, Chair Johnson and members of the Rules Committee. My name is Sydney Sherrills. I'm the Director of Legislation and Policy for Councilmember Gautier. Councilmember Gautier has one minor amendment proposed for Bill 230443. The amendment does not change the substantive details of the proposed zoning overlay, which is designed to allow for the 100% affordable housing proposal on this block to not trigger any dimensional variances. The amendment shortens the length of the sunset clause from 4 years to 2 years and moves the sentence that references the sunset clause into a different section of the bill at the direction of the law department. Councilmember Gautier believes this amended version of the bill will be more implementable when enacted. I'd also like to note that there is a companion remapping bill, which I referenced earlier, 230447. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions or comments from members of the committee? Anyone else here to testify on this bill? Hearing none, would the clerk please call the panel for Bill number 230448?
For 230448, we have Paula Brumbelow Burns.
State your name and title for the record, and please begin your testimony.
I'm Paula Brumbelow Burns, Director of Legislation for the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I am here to testify on Bill number 230448, introduced into City Council on May 25th, 2023 by Council members Driscoll, Jones Jr., and O'Neill. Bill number 230448 amends the Philadelphia Zoning Code by amending Chapter 14-500 Overlay Zoning Districts of the Philadelphia Code. The FNE, Far Northeast Overlay, NE, Northeast Overlay, and FDO, 4th District Overlay, and will create regulations for medical marijuana. This bill will replace Bill number 230132, which would have prohibited recreational marijuana citywide. Instead, recreational marijuana would be defined and prohibited in 3 council districts within 3 existing zoning overlays. The zoning code asks the commission to review all overlays by asking whether the goals of the overlay can be accomplished through changes to the base zoning, and we believe that these changes should not apply to specific overlays. Additionally, the Pennsylvania General Assembly has not created a definition of recreational marijuana and may have a potential for future conflict with the definitions. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission considered Bill number 220448 at its meeting on June 8th, 2023, and recommended that the bill not be approved. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from members of the committee?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Curtis Jones.
Thank you so very much. As we understand the rationale for the objection to the bill, let me give you the reasons why we would urge people to be able to, on behalf of their constituents, advocate as to whether or not recreational marijuana, which could be a part of a state initiative, should be considered in a case-by-case, district-by-district manner. When we instituted, based on the Commonwealth's edict, the medical marijuana piece, in some parts of my district, it was warmly received. People who had need for that, proximity to that, and compliance with where they could be located were totally pleased. In other sections, many of whom had been besieged with what I classify as pill mills, where people were abusing prescriptions in the opioid conflict and overprescription era, got sick of it and had a sour taste in their mouth about anything that dealt with kind of a drug distribution network, whether it was medical and definitely not recreational. And often they were besieged by smoke shops that had nothing to do with medical marijuana, but the perception was that they were being beset and besieged by those kinds of facilities. What we would like to do is safeguard that in at least my district, and speaking for the 4th district, not be able to automatically or even have a facility that could just qualify by right and by the state edict to be able to then switch over to distribute recreational marijuana. There's a place for everything, and some of the places aren't conducive to where existing facilities are. And that should be on a case-by-case determination, on a district-by-district determination. And I just would hope that my colleagues understand that and allow district council people, as well as people who reside that are at-large council people, make those kinds of critical local decisions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from members of the committee? Anyone else here to testify on this bill?
Mr.
Hearing-
Chair, I just have a quick comment.
Sure.
In the chat. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to rise in support of my colleague, Councilmember Jones, who's also my district member for 230448, and thank him for his continued service and listening to the residents of the 4th Council District relative to the wants and needs of our community and how we want to see community and economic development moving forward. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Any other questions or comments from members of the committee? Anyone that's here to testify on this bill? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the panel for bill number 230442?
For 230442, we have Paula Brumlow Burns. We also have Rachel Pritzker and Mario Stagliano.
Paula, please state your name and title for the record, and please begin your testimony.
I am Paula Brumlow Burns, Director of Legislation for the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I am here to testify on Bill number 230442, introduced into City Council on May 25th, 2023 by Councilmember Lozada. Bill number 230442 amends the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning of land at 4735 Duffield in the Frankfort neighborhood. This bill will rezone a 9,000 square foot parcel of land from RSA 5 residential single family to I1 light industrial zoning district. The parcel is currently a vacant lot and is proposing to become a parking lot for an existing industrial use across the street. The Planning Commission had concerns about introducing industrial zoning for a mid-block single property in a residential block where a variance could be a more appropriate action for this proposal. By keeping the current residential zoning district, it may allow for complementary development in the future. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission considered Bill number 230442 at its meeting on June 8th, 2023, and recommended that the bill not be approved. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Any questions or comments from members of the committee? Hearing none, we have Rachel. Rachel, welcome back to council. Rachel, can you begin your testimony?
Sure. Thank you, Chairman and members of the Rules Committee. My name is Rachel Pritzker, and I'm testifying on Bill 230442. I'm the CEO of Pritzker Law Group, which is the only certified women-owned real estate law firm in Philadelphia. And I had the fortunate pleasure to work with many of you on this committee. I represent Our Way Linen, a linen and uniform rental service that has been a long-standing neighborhood-based business in our city since 1979. You will hear from one of the owners shortly, but I wanted to just provide some context as to the request for an ordinance in front of this committee. As Mario will share, we have been working on the acquisition and redevelopment of this site since at least 2016. After working through the land bank process, which was not fully fleshed out at this time, we worked through the variance process to obtain approval for a surface parking lot on a long-standing vacant lot, some of which were privately owned and some of which were publicly owned that we consolidated. We received unanimous support from the community, and unfortunately, due to a clerical error with the engineer using the Eclipse system, which I'm sure we're all familiar with, we were not provided with the zoning permit in a timely manner, and it lapsed. After almost 8 years of this process, working with the city to create parking for a longstanding business, we're asking for support from this committee for the growth of this company. While I will not belabor the need to make doing business in Philadelphia easier, what I will say is the request at hand is not only reasonable, but it's a no-brainer given the history of this business, the value it brings to this neighborhood and the city as a whole. The ordinance will allow a classification that is aligned with the adjacent business and will close out what has been more than 8 years of a tireless city collaboration. We appreciate all the support and work of Councilwoman Lozada and her team, and appreciate the committee's attention and hopeful support of this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'm going to ask for Mario. Please provide your testimony. Mr. Stagliano. Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Good morning, and thank you, Rachel. And members of the Rules Committee, I'm testifying on Bill 230442. My name is Mario Stagliano, and I'm one of the owners of Our Way Linen, a family-owned and operated company since 1979. We've occupied our space at 1696 Folkrod Street in the 7th District since December of 1985. We're a proud union shop, a staple in our community, and the whole neighborhood knows we'll give anyone a shot who needs a job. The number 2533. That's how many people we've employed since we've been at our location. That's how many people knew that they were in a safe place and can earn a check. Our founders built the business off of one thing: invest in our people. We're one of the few companies who pay 100% of employees' health care, contribute to retirement, and are above the norm for hourly wages. Our unions love us, and so do our employees. In 2012, we had interest in buying some privately owned vacant land directly across the street from our building on Duffield Street to make it a parking lot. We noticed there were city-owned lots as well that had been vacant for a long time. We needed additional space for our employees and service vehicles to park since we were a growing business at the time. We contributed our privately owned parcels and reached out to the land bank before it was fully organized to work through the process to obtain the vacant and unused city-owned parcels. It took us 8 years to work through that process with the city until we finally were able to settle on these lots. We went through the variance process and obtained unanimous community support as well. Because of a clerical error where our engineer did not share with us the ability to issue and pull the final zoning permit through then a complicated Eclipse system. After working through the challenges of these processes, COVID, and continuing to provide employment to our organization, we are in a position to develop this property and want to move forward. We are asking the Committee on Rules to support the request before them and support the passage of this ordinance, which will allow us a zoning designation consistent with our business and streamlined path to developing this lot for our employees and closing out what has been a very long process. We look forward to continuing to be great neighbors, to provide jobs to our employees in the city that we love, and ask you to support us in this small way by voting to support us and this ordinance.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mario. Any questions or comments, members of the committee? Councilman Lozada?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to express my support for this particular project. We all know that oftentimes doing business with the city, especially coming or working through the pandemic, was really challenging. This organization or this company has been a good neighbor, has been responsible, and has kept this parcel free from blight. As Mr. Mario mentioned, they are an employer of that community, and they work very closely with the stakeholders in that community. And so I'm asking for a favorable recommendation from this committee for bill number 230442.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from members of the committee? Anyone else here to testify on this bill? Hearing none. Will the clerk please call the next panel for bill number 230410?
For 230410, we have Paula Brumlow Burns.
Paula, state your name and title for the record and begin your testimony.
I am Paula Brumlow Burns, Director of Legislation for the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I am here to testify on bill number 230410, introduced into City Council on May 11th, 2023 by council members Lozada, Driscoll, Squilla, Harity, O'Neill, Johnson, Bass, and Vaughn. Bill number 230410 amends the Philadelphia zoning codes by amending chapter 14-500 of the Philadelphia Code by creating an overlay district that addresses the location of injection sites for narcotics. This bill will define a narcotics injection site as a healthcare facility that provides space for a person to inject, ingest, inhale, or otherwise introduce into their body an unprescribed controlled substance as included in Schedules 1 through 4 of the Pennsylvania Controlled Substance, Drug, Device, and Cosmetic Act. It will then prohibit this use in 5 council districts throughout the city. The use is currently not permitted within the city or state. The administration would like to involve additional agencies to review, discuss, and understand the implications of this bill. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission considered bill number 230410 at its meeting on June 8th, 2023, and recommended that the bill be granted an additional 45 days for review. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments, members of the committee?
I do.
Councilman Kathy Lozada.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Paula, very quickly, I know I asked my staff to reach out to you regarding several questions that we had. I don't know the process, right? And so I don't know what this 45-day request means. However, I have several questions. My first question is, who are the members of your committee?
The Planning Commission members are appointed by the mayor, and they represent, hold on, I had to pull my training video up so I can make sure I get this. Do you want their actual names, or do you just want the roles that they have per the charter?
The actual names would be great. Thank you.
Okay, let me see. Michael Johns serves as the architect. The urban planner. Yeah, my mind went completely blank on this one. Garland, and I just blanked on her last, Garland Capita. The traffic engineer is Joseph Siernick. The attorney experienced in land use issues is Cheryl Gaston. The 2 representatives of civics who participate in land use is Maria Gonzalez and Jimena Valle. We then have 4 agency reps from Commerce, Finance, the Managing Director, and the Planning and Development agencies.
Who's signing for the Managing Director? I'm sorry.
Aubrey Powell.
And can I ask you, what were some of the concerns that were expressed during your hearing or during your meeting?
We didn't have a full hearing on it. The staff was recommending the 45 days because of what we just testified on. The administration would like to involve additional agencies to review, discuss, understand the implications of the bill, and they granted the 45 days.
I'm not sure what the administration would like to know. We have had 8 years. The administration has had 8 years to ask all of the questions they've needed to ask. They've had 8 years to talk to stakeholders. They have had 8 years to talk to businesses and to residents in that community. The community insists on saying they do not want this in their neighborhoods. My colleagues who also represent their residents, have expressed to them that they do not want this type of business in their neighborhoods. And so I'm not sure. And if I sound frustrated, please understand that I am extremely frustrated, because you talk to the administration and they say they have no idea what planning is requesting and why. And so I don't know what you are asking, what you are looking for, what questions you all need answered. To understand that this is something that the community is extremely against. They do not want this in their neighborhood. Why do we, as an administration, as a city, insist on going against what community residents know is best for them in their neighborhoods? Why?
That I'm not necessarily going to know the answer to, because I don't represent all of the administration. I'm just representing the Planning Commission. But
you all also have had 8 years to respond to this. And so there should be an answer, right? We have several community residents who are here this morning and who have the same answers. And every time we come in front of someone who represents the administration, planning, zoning, health, DBHIDS, they get the runaround. And so I don't seem to understand why we can't support what community residents know is best for them.
Okay.
You guys have been here for 8 years too, or more. So what are the questions that you all have in planning that require a 45-day extension?
Because it's going into the zoning code, we want to make sure we work with license and inspections. We want to make sure that the health department is all on board, because we do want what's best for the residents of our city. But we also want to make sure that the administration can operate within the realm of the zoning code and that it all works together as one piece.
Wouldn't this require for individuals who are interested in bringing a safe injection site into the neighborhood, wouldn't it require for them to come to the community and request a variance?
If this passed, yes, it would require a variance, which would require an RCO meeting.
So are you telling me that community voice is not important and that we can't trust them to do what is best for them in their neighborhoods in an RCO meeting?
No, we are not saying that at all. We were just asking for additional time to review the bill for the impact that it has on the administration's operations.
Again, you guys have had 8 years for that. And so I am going to request that we get a favorable recommendation for this bill. The administration and everyone involved in this conversation have had significant time to be able to ask all of the questions, do all of the research necessary to be able to come to some type of an agreement, understanding, or support of community residents. And so I don't know what my authority is as it relates to a non-extension of 45 days, but I am going to request on the record that we do not consider an additional 45 days because, again, we as a city have had significant time, and we are the reason why that neighborhood looks the way that it is. And we can't continue to allow us as a city to inflict trauma on the residents of Kensington Harrogate.
Understood.
Chair recognizes Councilman Mark Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Also, Paula, as we know in other overlays that we have, there are areas that have prohibited cash for gold, check cashing locations, doctor's offices, bar, and nightclubs have all been done in other areas of the city as overlays. Would this act any differently as an overlay where it would just require a variance and therefore a community meeting before it could move forward? Wouldn't this work the same way?
I believe it will work the same way as the other overlays operate.
All right, so then basically it just allows the community to have a meeting to discuss it. And again, and we know how the zoning board works. The community has a process. There are meetings. A letter goes to the ZBA, and then the ZBA, as an independent body, would listen to the person who's trying to operate one of these sites and the community, and then it would be decided at that point. So basically, all it's doing is giving the community a voice in the process. And so, at the end of the day, Planning Commission, we would hope, would support that.
And the commission will be hearing this again before, with the 45 days, the planning commission gets to hear it again. So it's for a full presentation.
Okay, well, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, it's Mr. Chairman.
Councilman O'Neill, I just have a question of Paula. Paula, I'm familiar with the 45-day hold. And we also are up against the summer recess. If the hold were not on, and the bill was reported out today at first reading tomorrow and passed next week, it could sit on the mayor's desk until September.
I believe, without being the law department, I believe
Yeah,
that
I mean,
the situation.
I'm certain of that.
Okay.
I've been on both sides of it, so
I know you have, so that's why I don't want to answer.
My other point is, and this is for my colleague, Councilwoman Lozada. The reporting the bill out tomorrow, we won't be able to pass it next week, but the pending ordinance doctrine that affects zoning will give it the effect of law. Okay. And even if we did pass it, if there weren't a 45-day hold, that summer period is even longer. Now, if we had a special session in the summer, that would be the only thing that would trigger a timetable for the mayor that would be shorter rather than longer. But the mayor can sit on a bill all summer. But if the bill gets reported out favorably, and it's a Supreme Court case from a long time ago that set that into the law. So I just wanted to mention that because as a practical matter, this will have the effect of law today if it's reported out of committee.
Thank you, Council Member, for the explanation. My point is that there has been significant time for this administration to do whatever they needed to do, answer whatever questions, research. They've had enough time. So this is a lame request. This is viewed as another way of holding back on what community residents want for their neighborhoods.
That is, I'm sure, the purpose. I've been there, done that, but this pending ordinance doctrine will defeat, if that's the purpose, it will defeat it.
Any other questions or comments from members of the committee?
Mr. Chair?
Councilman Catherine Gilmore Richardson.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Chair. So Councilmember O'Neill already stated what I was going to ask, but I did want to go back to planning, to planning when they plan on having their next meeting and making a recommendation either way regarding that legislation. Is that something they could share today for the record so that we even know what their specific timeline will be? And obviously, I was going to mention the pending ordinance doctrine, recognize that if this does move out of committee today, the impact that it would have, also recognizing that we're pushing up against the summer recess period. So I just wanted to ask planning when they plan on having their next meeting and making a recommendation on this legislation.
I believe Our next meeting, we have meetings scheduled for July, August, and September. I'm not precisely sure if sometimes we cancel out due to lack of material or not enough materials. We'll either cancel out July or August. I do not know which one at this point. We can get back to you as we firm up our summer schedule.
That would be excellent. If we could get passed to the chair of this committee, Councilmember Johnson, and all members of the committee, especially the bill sponsor, Councilmember Lozada, just an update in writing on when the Planning Commission will meet on this bill 230410, so that we have that information and understand more fully the timeline that you all are seeking to undertake. But also within the confines of that written communication, if we could have all of what you all are seeking to undertake relative to interfacing with other city departments, can we get a detailed list of who you all are interfacing with and what you are seeking to ascertain from those specific departments as well as a part of your review process, so that we as members of council who represent these communities, of which I represent the entire city, so we can adequately share with our residents the internal process that the city is undertaking to further review this issue. Okay? All right. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Any other comments from members of the committee?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Curtis Jones.
Thank you so very much. I just want to thank Member O'Neill for citing the procedure, and that by passing this out, it gives that ordinance the impact of a law. And by doing so, we still get to honor the 45-day request by the Planning Commission for them to do their due diligence. But what you shut down is people moving permits, trying to circumvent the will of the people and the will of the members of council by getting permits and things like that already underway. So I think it does an equitable job of accomplishing the 45-day freeze, but not allowing anyone to circumvent the procedure and move permits in a way that would be harmful, possibly to the community. I want to cite that I recognize the need for recovery. I recognize the need for public health and public safety, but I do also recognize that people should have the right to comment, the right to have input, and that, before you put a facility in a neighborhood, that neighborhood should have input. So I thank Member O'Neill, and I'm thankful for Member Lozada's keen understanding of this, and being associated with Ground Zero Kensington, her wheelhouse of information is probably better than anyone's. And so with that, I'm supporting her to move this legislation out of committee. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Any other questions or comments from members of the committee? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the next panel for this particular bill, please?
Next to speak, we have Lucia Demacia.
Please state your name and title for the record, and please begin your testimony.
It looks like that witness may not be in the hearing, Mr. Chair, so we'll move on to Kate Clark. If Kate Clark is available, please unmute and begin your testimony.
Kate, please state your name and title for the record, and please begin your testimony.
We'll move on to the next speaker. We have Sonia Bingham.
Sonia, please state your name and testimony. State your name and title for the record, and please begin your testimony.
Thank you. My name is Sonia Bingham. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity today to come before you Just to voice my concern about the potential impact or that these safe injection sites could have on our communities. And I just think the most poignant perspective is just to state the obvious, right? These drugs they're talking about injecting are illegal, full stop. It really causes me pause to think that we even need to have this discussion where we are considering creating a space where it would be legal for them to use them. You know, I hear from the government and it's all over the news how, you know, we as, you know, leaders of free world are trying to stop cartels from bringing these narcotics into our country in one breath, but in the next, we're also saying we're going to create a space to make those same narcotics that we claim we're trying to stop legal and create a space where there is a safe zone for them to use them. I think that we need to pick a struggle here and figure out what side of this equation we're going to land. Either we are in business with the cartels and they can have free reign to ruin, you know, many innocent lives, or we're going to take a stand and create a different conversation about what it truly looks like. I think that you just can't have it both ways. And I think another thing that really is at the forefront of my mind is that how adversely it affects the Black and brown population, even from the perspective of the narcotics, business, right? You know, we have the dealers. If you have the dealers that are going to jail, disproportionately African American and Black and brown people. But then we have the consumers who are disproportionately white, and we're offering them beds and treatment centers. So there is a dynamic there that I don't think that people are really looking at, that we live each and every day. And please know that our children are also watching this. What messages are we sending to our children to say we don't have enough money and we don't have enough people that are really invested in making sure that their futures are secured and reducing classroom sizes and creating these safe spaces and making sure that we're funding in an intentional grand scale manner the way we do the opioid crisis for those who are suffering with their addiction, right? What message are we sending to those children who are walking over people who are shooting up drugs, breaking into their house, defecating in walkways, and this is a common occurrence that they see each and every day, you know? And so we're also now planting seeds on that side of the equation as well. And I think most importantly, what's important to us is that, you know, we've been so adversely affected by the crisis, and we're watching, you know, millions and millions of dollars of investment into this issue that we're having here, and especially in Harrogate, Kensington community. And what we're seeing is that you all are reaping a serious yield on your investment, because it is not reducing the number of addicts that are plaguing and terrorizing our community. It's continuing to increase. I will use Prevention Point as my biggest example. Prevention Point has 2 years ago, we met with the MDO's office. We brought to their attention that they were dumping 5 million needles in the past year. So in 2020, we discovered that 5 million needles were being dumped into our community. We were complaining about picking them up. We got the data and we brought it to the MDO. We had a meeting. Mayor Jim Kenney was just astounded by the numbers. He couldn't believe it was so. And I just thought it just struck a funny chord with me that you didn't know. There's no oversight into your partnership with this agency that everyone is standing by and swearing is a much needed institution. So if you don't know what they're doing on that level, right? What makes you think that you're going to have any more controls over an agency, another agency that now is going to make using drugs illegal? But in that meeting, he also pledged and vowed his support to reduce the number of needles. Well, the next year, an article came out, it was 9 million needles. So it almost doubled. So, we need to look at what we're doing, how we're investing, and look at the impact it is having on us. We live it each and every day. Those needles and all of the things that come with it, the shootings, the robberies, consistently seeing samples being delivered on our blocks, and we're hovering in our homes because we're afraid to go outside, is what happens when you identify an area as a space where this activity is allowed, right? I always use the example of simple economics. People fish where there's fish, right? People go fishing where there's fish. Starbucks is not going to open up its next location in an area of 5,000 when right next door there's 500,000 people that are willing to buy their product. So if we're going to say this product is allowed to be used here, then you're going to bring the dealers and all the violence and everything that goes with it and continue to dump it in a community that is really trying to climb out of a situation that we did not create. And we completely stand against any type of resources or institutions being housed in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Lozada, brief comment.
Yes, Councilman. I just wanted to circle back around to Pamela's testimony. I think it was. I want to ask for if it would be possible to have the Planning Commission's minutes from that last meeting shared with you and this committee. If that's possible, that would be awesome. As well as the list of her members in writing.
Can we send you the recording of the meeting, because the minutes have to be approved by they're not completed yet, and they have to then be approved by the commission, but we can send you the link of the meeting so you can watch it. Is that?
Thank you so much. As well as in writing your
Absolutely.
members. Thank you.
Thank you. Will the clerk please call the next person on the panel on this particular bill, please?
Rounding out this panel, we have Drew Murray.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Chair, and thank you to members of the committee. I wear a few hats, probably speaking today as the chairman of the Philadelphia Crosstown Coalition, which is a coalition of neighborhood associations all across the city of Philadelphia. It should be noted that we have not taken a position on this legislation, but a lot of our members are on this call today, and so I am speaking mostly from my personal opinion. So first, there's no such thing as safe heroin usage. I am opposed to attempts by private organizations to make the city of Philadelphia the home of one of the first safe injection sites in the United States. Addiction is a disease and it should be treated as such. But enabling those addicts with safe injection sites harms both the addicts and the surrounding community. Supporters of these sites espouse harm reduction when advocating for a location where addicts can legally and safely inject heroin. There's no evidence that these safe injection sites do anything to help individuals break the cycle of addiction. If the cycle is not broken, heroin will eventually destroy their lives. Again, addiction is a disease. Solutions and investments in individuals and communities suffering the ill effects of that disease are imperative. However, the normalization of drug use, the enabling of addicts, and the harmful effects of surrounding communities that will result from safe injection sites are not the cure for this epidemic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Drew Murray. It concludes this panel. Anyone else here to testify on this bill, 230410?
We have two more panels after this, Mr. Chair.
Yes, we do. I see it. Can the clerk please call the next panel, please?
So first in this panel, we have Lynn Landis, followed by Barbara Capozzi and Kate Allen.
Hello, good morning. My name is Lynn Landis. I'm founder of SafeStreetsPhilly.org. I support Bill 230410. At all times in our lives, common sense has a defining part to play. No matter what the data or statistics might say about safe injection sites, common sense tells us that enabling drug addiction, as well as exposing neighborhoods to the daily influx of drug addicts and their suppliers, is a really bad idea. Many times, well-meaning people with good intentions have good intentions, but the consequences of their bad ideas can be horrific. As an example, this is what we are currently experiencing in Philadelphia today. Crime has skyrocketed as a direct result of misguided soft-on-crime policies. Another example, already mentioned, the Clean Needle Exchange Program, which has many Philadelphia neighborhoods awash in needles. I find them all the time in my neighborhood, which is in downtown Philly next to Jefferson Hospital. We also have what we call our methadone moms who come into our neighborhood to get their government-funded drug fix with their poor babies in tow. Allowing safe injection sites will enable more of the same destructive behavior by addicts and their suppliers. There is a National Institute of Health study entitled Safe Injection Sites, a Moral Reflection, that offers a well-reasoned argument against safe injection sites, which I highly recommend. At the heart of the safe injection site issue is this basic question: why should society allow any entity, public or private, to enable drug use that is at its core a physically and socially destructive activity for both the individual and society? Why aren't we instead requiring and funding long-term drug rehabilitation on a voluntary and non-voluntary basis? Now that makes a lot of sense. The time for options is over. A healthy, just, and caring society does not enable drug addiction, which is what safe injection sites do. Please do not allow them in Philadelphia, in any part of Philadelphia. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Barbara Capozzi.
Hi, I'll be brief. My first comment, this public health emergency of COVID is over, and why are we not meeting in person? It makes it very, very difficult for advocates to get together and state their case. And maybe that's why it's done, I don't know. But we much prefer to have our testimony in person and see you all in person as well. With all due respect to the Planning Commission and Paula, additional 45 days is ridiculous. This concept is illegal, safe injection sites. So I don't know what the Planning Commission would be talking about, but how is our input relayed to them? Are we going to be allowed to come to that meeting? Not that we want to go to another meeting about this, but what input will the Planning Commission have with the community concerns? That's my big question there. So moving on, huge thanks to the co-chairs of this bill so far. First District Squilla, Second District Councilman Johnson, Sixth District Councilman Driscoll, Seventh District Quetzi Lozado, Eighth District Cindy Bass, 10th District Councilman O'Neill, and at large Vaughn and Harity have co-signed these bills. Councilwoman.
And also amendment today from Councilman Curtis Jones for the 4th Councilman District.
Very happy to hear that, because I was just going to say, Councilman Gilmore Richardson and Jones, please sign on with us. So, okay. Kathy, I'll be calling you after this hearing. Thank you. Our communities really need the security of a comprehensive citywide coverage for this bill, not district by district. My district, thanks to Councilman Johnson, has signed on this bill. But if the district adjacent to mine goes south, that hurts our community as well. So a comprehensive citywide bill would be fabulous, or we'll need to work on our other 2 remaining district council people. The government's role should be to uplift, engage, educate, inspire, and protect its citizens. Making drug use easier for citizens is not in that mandate. Us volunteers have been fighting this battle for over 3 years. The last time we were in city council was the week before the world shut down from COVID. I asked the then health commissioner, since fired, why he was pushing this awful concept rather than preparing the city for the virus that everyone was talking about. He never answered me, but he gave testimony that this was the most wonderful thing he'd ever heard. He's gone, but obviously the concept isn't. So 3 years later, I have the same question, but now I know the answer why this is being pushed. I saw a document that perhaps I was not supposed to see. It contained the names of all the high-priced lawyers aligned against us in our federal court battle. We have wonderful pro bono lawyers from Deckert, but we're arrayed against an army of very expensive, the best in the country, well-paid attorneys from New York, DC, and Philadelphia. So when you want to know the answer to anything, you say follow the money. The proponents of this concept, obviously, there's big money in it, obviously. And to think that people are perfectly willing to destroy communities to earn a buck for themselves is very, very shocking and upsetting to us community people. All of our communities are the worst for the last 3 years that we've endured with COVID. There's been a material decline in life, in quality of life, and the city services are bare bones, and response time could not get any worse. But we continue to fight on in federal, state, and local levels until this misguided concept is quashed permanently. We're all volunteers here. We have held our communities together during COVID. And I can tell you that this is one issue that I don't even get the sentence finished before everybody starts screaming that we got to stop this, we have to stop this. And as maybe the whole panel doesn't know, but as you know, the 2nd District fought this, the first site that was tried. We fought it and it was pulled immediately. We're closest to the action and we feel the grief. So you need to listen to us. We do not want these ill-advised facilities in our communities. Drug use is an illness, and the cure is not to enable and make it easier and give the appearance that all is well. I have read all the literature. I've talked to people on all sides. I would never, ever, ever be able to convince my neighbors that this is a good idea or that it works to help those who are struggling. I've heard from people from San Francisco and New York City. I cannot get them off the phone. They are so upset by the sites that are in their neighborhoods, and they're working hard and asking for our help to help them close the 2 facilities in San Francisco and New York. So please do not make us go to the mattresses on this. We will, we can, and for those who are not listening, you will hear from us loudly and clearly. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you again for the co-sponsors, and thank you, Councilman Jones, for signing on today. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Would the person on the panel please state their name and begin their testimony? Go ahead, Caitlin.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Kate Allen, and I am the president of the Queen Village Neighbors Association. Thank you for providing me with the opportunity to speak today. I am requesting that the committee votes to update the zoning overlay to prohibit safe injection sites and prevent them from being built by right. The most troubling piece of this years-long legal battle is the blatant and willful disregard for our communities. An Inquirer article from January stated, registered community organizations are, quote, organized groups within a given neighborhood that advocate for and take action to shape the way their community looks. The main purpose of RCOs is to weigh in on development projects in their neighborhood. Yet, in one of the most divisive development projects since the Crosstown Expressway, our groups have routinely been cut out of the decision-making process. Residents still have unanswered questions about these sites and how they will affect our neighborhoods. This overlay provides an avenue for residents to get answers to those questions and have a seat at the table. When it comes to development projects, especially contentious ones, your role is often to reach out to and find a compromise and encourage businesses to be good neighbors by working with the community. But it's clear after years of being routinely ignored in this fight, those trying to impose these sites on our communities do not want to be good neighbors. No one has ever reached out to our organizations to discuss a proposal. No one has ever asked for volunteers of anyone who wants a safe injection site in their neighborhood. It's not about what our communities want, it's about what others want for our communities. My fellow civic presidents are here once again to ask you to stand up for our communities and to prohibit these sites from being built by right. Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Shannon Farrell.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for today and for all the work that you have put in for this, especially Councilmember Lozada. I'm very excited that you got elected. You've been here for 8 years. Kenzie's been fighting this with us. And I know that I have to keep reminding everybody, but the first site initially was meant to go on 1800 Hilton Street in Harrogate. And at that time, they were putting it in a building which was approved and supported by the mayor and his administration in the same building as a daycare center, because that's how little the people who want to run and operate this cares about the community and the children in it. At that time, it was just the residents in Kensington and Harrogate, and the only support from another community came from Port Richmond to help us fight that. It was crickets from the rest of the city until they decided to try and put it in South Philly, home of the Flyers and the Mummers, right? And then now the whole city's on board. We went up to me, Councilmember Squilla, and his legislative aide, Sean, who's on today. We went up to Toronto to visit these sites with the group that wanted to open them here. We saw empty businesses. We talked to businesses who said that they had to pay for the security. They have to pay for the streets to be cleaned. They have to hide their product in the back rooms. So when you walk into the stores in Toronto, you're looking at pictures of an item that you want to purchase. You're not looking at an item. There was no police that we could find anywhere. And we went 5 blocks around because we had to go from one site down to the hospital to another site, which is about 4.5 blocks down. We didn't, in the 2 days that we were there, see one police officer at any of the sites that we went to. We saw tents outside of the biggest site. We saw people in the Tim Hortons restaurant shooting up inside and slumped over and sleeping. It looked an awful lot like Kensington. And Kensington itself, Kensington Avenue, is like a safe injection site, and it hasn't worked to get these people off of the streets and out of our neighborhood. They sit safely in our parks and use. They sit safely on our sidewalks while our children and our residents aren't safe. They have Narcan. They're giving clean needles, food, and anything they want. And it has only increased the population of people in our neighborhood using and decreased every day our quality of life. So we absolutely need to prohibit these, stop it from destroying other communities, and figure out a solution for the problem here. But a safe injection site already exists in Philadelphia. It's contained in Kensington and Harrogate, and it doesn't work. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Will the clerk please call the next panel to testify on this bill?
The next panel we have David Haas, Peter Zutter, and Leanne Saloff.
Leanne, can you begin your testimony?
Hello?
Leanne,
Yes,
go ahead and start your testimony.
you're getting ready. You want me to do it now?
Yes.
Do I log on?
Oh, you're already logged on.
Oh, okay. They told me it was going to be later in the day, and I'm picking my child up from school. Give me 1 second.
I'll start
Hold
with
on.
David Haas to give you some additional time, and then we'll come back to you, Leanne, okay?
Yep, give me 3 minutes. I'm picking her up from school. Give me 3 minutes.
Okay, I'm going to let David start first and go ahead and go on
Yep.
mute.
Perfect.
David,
Thank you so much.
you're welcome. David Haas, go ahead and state your name for the record, and please begin your testimony.
My name is David Haas. I'm here to testify on behalf of Societal Civic Association President Susan Burt Collins and the 1,500 families who are part of Society Hill. Thank you, Chairman Johnson and council members. I want to express my support for this bill, the overlay for injection sites. I want to express support for 3 reasons. The first is the law and the research are not settled on this issue. As you know, safe injection sites are illegal under 21 U.S. Code 856 and continue to be illegal. And the research, for example, Dr. Sharon Larson at Thomas Jefferson University says that clearly that the science is still limited, even though it's possible that lives are saved and that there's no impact on crime, but we can't be certain at this point in time. Second, Society Hill is working on quality of life issues, and this the safe injection sites impacts our efforts. We're addressing crime, especially since the shooting on June 5th of last year on South Street, where 3 members of the community were killed and 11 were injured. We're working with multiple civic associations, business improvement districts, Delaware River Corporation, Interstate Land Development Corporation, state representatives, Philly Police, and Councilman Squilla, thank you, sir, to address businesses and quality of life issues in the neighborhood. In addition, if injection sites are added, there are existing substance abuse treatment centers. For example, there's the Crossroads Center at 5th and South Street that need to be part of the process so that there can be coordination. So we really want to be part of this process. Third, there's secrecy in the current process that's generating mistrust and rumors and generating fear among the residents of Society Hill. For example, we've heard rumors that there is already an injection site on South Street. We haven't been able to confirm it. We've heard that there are 21 sites that are going to open. We don't know if that's true or not. And we've heard that there is a confidential court process ongoing to decide on what these sites are and where they'll be placed with no community input. We really simply don't know what's happening, and we want to be part of this process. We believe that this bill supports community input, and as a result, our neighborhood fully is behind this legislation, and we would like to see it passed. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, my good friend from South Philly, Mr. Peter Zutter.
Hello, Chairman Johnson. My name is Peter Zutter. I'm president of the South Broad Street Neighborhood Association. We're opposed to the installation of illegal drug injection sites and support the zoning overlay regulation proposed in Bill 230410. We have seen the damage that uncontrolled and unregulated drug treatment facilities do to our neighborhood, and specifically South Broad Street. We have several facilities that treat addiction. Each one has brought problems to the area. The city has been completely unresponsive in controlling these problems. The city tried to sneak an illegal drug injection site into our neighborhood within our civic association boundary with no community notice or offer to remediate any of the problems the drug injection site will bring. This shows us that the city administration has no intention of supporting the community where these sites are located. They never have. This has no place in a residential neighborhood where we already face crime, theft, violence, and disorder without police presence or other services from the city. These sites and the drug and other illegal activity they will bring into the neighborhood have no place here. These sites do not encourage treatment, but give the veneer of government-sanctioned illegal drug use. They will perpetuate addiction and increase illegal drug sales, increase gun violence by drug dealers, and have no place here. This has occurred in other cities that have these sites. We must do everything we can to keep these facilities out of our community, and this is a good start. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Next, we're going to have for Leanne Savloff. Begin your testimony. Leanne, are you there?
Mr. Chair, hold on one moment. I know she was having connection issues with logging onto the link, so council support was calling her in. Would council support be able to reconnect Leanne Savloff?
I didn't know that. Yes, we're trying to connect her again now.
Yeah. Hello?
Yes, go ahead, Leanne.
Hi, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'm able to testify right now. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. So I am a mother of a now teenager compared to 3 years ago.
and an elementary school child. And what I have to say is, when we drive through neighborhoods, my children have noticed a difference, and they'll say, "Mom, what happened?" And when you try to explain that officials make rules and regulations that look good on paper because they want to help everyone in the community, as they should, they don't realize the impact of quality of life and how our children see it and how our children notice the difference. My child goes to school on Broad and Shunk. They can't do field day anymore over at Marconi Plaza because they're afraid of the needles. And someone will say, "But safe injection sites, that's what we want. We want everyone to go inside." But you're still not addressing the problem. You're just moving the problem inside. You're not doing medical detox. You're not getting like real rehab. And people say, "But the goal is," but see, the goal in expectations and then the reality are two different things. Look at the needle exchange programs. The needle exchange programs were to help people so we don't have the spread of HIV. I actually don't disagree with that. However, somewhere along the line, we stopped doing the exchange part and we just started to hand out needles, and a lot of needles. Now walk around Kensington, you need still to boots on so that nothing happens to your feet. Now, I don't live in that area. I can't imagine being a mother of small children on a hot summer day telling my children they can't wear flip-flops because of all the needles that those kids encounter. And someone will say that's greatly exaggerated. No, it's not. Go up in that neighborhood. And now basically what I get out of safe injection sites is that the city wants to break up Kensington and just put it in each district. Why? All we're doing is scattering the problem. We're still not addressing the root cause of the problem. And that's where my issue comes in. If someone proposed this in a medical facility, in an industrial area, say down like near the docks, like where there was no businesses, there weren't any families, there weren't any schools, there weren't any parks, I may have a different point of view. But that's not what's being proposed. And that's not what you're asking for. You're asking for things because you're going by zip codes, and you're asking to put them in where our kids go to the playground, where businesses have to step over this, where businesses close. It's unacceptable. We deserve better. We've been here. We shouldn't have to move. We don't want to move. We want to help people, but we want to do it in a positive way that everyone gets to win. It's a situation that if you oppose an injection site, you get called horrible names, or you're heartless, or wait until your kids are on drugs someday. Okay, I hope my kids are never on drugs, but if they are, I'm still not going to condone this. And I'm going to fight with my children like hell to get them in medical detox and do whatever I have to do. What people are still not address, and Maria Quinones Sanchez said this as she ran for mayor, 80%, and she used that number because I paid close attention. 80% are not even from Philadelphia. That is not fair for Philadelphia to pick up the tab from the surrounding counties when we have a 20% issue in our city. And there's no reason. There's no reason for any of this anymore. We need a solid plan, and breaking up Kensington to put it in every district is not the game plan. Because if that's the case, don't come around to knock on our doors when it's time for re-election to say, "Come support me," because you're not listening to the majority of the people who are from here. We are not ignorant. We're not uneducated. And every single one of us, almost every single one of us, has somebody in our family who we love with our hearts who suffers from this addiction. So when people say you don't know, yes, you do. We just don't all discuss it out loud, not because we're ashamed, because we're not going to have it thrown against us. Everybody has been through this circumstance, and everybody knows. We're making the problem grow. We're not containing it. Figure out a better way to contain it.
Thank you very much, Leanne. Any other questions or comments from members of this committee? Anyone else here to testify on this bill?
Chairman Johnson.
Councilwoman Lozada.
Can I just say thank you to all of the community members, organizations who have joined us today to express their support or their concerns related to this bill. I want community residents to understand that none of us, I don't think I have spoken to a colleague that has been against connecting those who are suffering from addiction to resources. We absolutely want a better quality of life for them and for community residents who are impacted as a result of the way that they are living, right? We do have to do better to work with our federal and state counterparts to be able to identify resources and other ways to bring a resolution to the issue that we are experiencing in the Kensington-Harrogate communities as well as citywide. You all have heard from people across the city here today and how their quality of life is also impacted. Ground Zero is in Kensington, but this is a citywide issue. And so I think that it's important to note for the record, because there are so many representatives from different parts of the city on this call, that we as a legislative body are committed to finding ways not just to break up the concentration in Kensington, but to improving the quality of life for everyone. There is no specific group that is more important than the other. We recognize that, and we understand that this is a situation that was created by us, by government, trying to figure out different ways of how to concentrate it. I don't think that government expected for it to spiral out of control the way that it has, but government is now responsible for figuring out how we bring a resolution to this. And I think it's going to require all of us to work together across the board with our federal and state counterparts who have also said that they are committed to being a part of the conversation. And so I just want to say thank you to all of you who have remained consistent, who have remained vigilant in your communities, who continue to stick up for those individuals in your neighborhoods who don't have a voice and who can't participate in committee hearings like this, but who are also impacted with this situation. And so thank you so much. We look forward to continuing the conversation.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from members of this committee? Anyone else out here to testify on this bill? Hearing none, we will take a brief pause before we go into public comment, before we go into our actual official public hearing to vote on these bills. Right now, we are going into our public comment, and we'll take a brief moment before we listen to those who are testifying on public comment. Will the clerk please call the first participant for public comment?
The first participant we have commenting on bill number 230448 is Jamie Ware.
Jamie Ware, from the president of the PA Cannabis Coalition, can you please begin your testimony?
Hello?
Hi,
yes.
Ms. Ware.
Hi. Good afternoon, guys, or almost afternoon.
You can please begin your testimony, Jamie.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Chairman Johnson and distinguished council members. My name is Jamie Ware, and I'm the president of the Pennsylvania Cannabis Coalition, or commonly referred to as PCC, and I'm also the senior vice president of regulatory and government affairs at Holistic Industries. My testimony today is regarding bill number 230448, which would place a disastrous restriction on 5 existing medical marijuana dispensaries in Philadelphia. The PCC represents 75% of the licenses across the Commonwealth and in Philadelphia. Our members are committed to working within their communities they operate in to provide safe and tested cannabis products in clean and secure cannabis dispensaries. The Medical Marijuana Act of 2016, as amended in 2021, allowed for 210 medical cannabis dispensaries to be located across the Commonwealth. 16 of those are in Philadelphia, and 5 of those are located in councilmanic districts 4, 6, and 10, the districts included in the ordinance. There are 3 in District 4, 1 in District 6, and 2 in District 10. Philadelphia dispensary operators worked really hard to obtain the community support needed to be in these districts and in all the districts they're in. We fulfilled all the local zoning requirements and met with community leaders to educate them on what having a dispensary brings to the neighborhood. And though earning community support does not come easy, it was not the only hurdle these operators faced so they could commence operations. A lot of money has gone into building these facilities to meet the state's requirements. Current operators had to take part in a rigorous application process that vetted each operator's ability to provide safe, tested cannabis products in a safe and secure environment. Each operator spent millions on these dispensaries to build product vaults and additional security infrastructure in these spaces so that all product could be kept secure. Metal doors, industrial grade locks, key card entry points, cameras, silent alarms, and burglary alarms. We also had to negotiate leases ahead of time and include the exact physical address for operations in our applications with the state in order to obtain a license. Some of you may be thinking that perhaps the answer for these 5 locations, these 5 dispensaries, is just to move into a district which will not have the adult use prohibition overlay. The problem is once a dispensary is built and the major investment in each location is made, moving our locations is almost impossible. The State Department of Health requires that operators apply for permission to move a dispensary, a permission that is only given in extraordinary circumstances. In fact, I've only heard of this being allowed once or twice. Additionally, landlords of cannabis operators know the restrictions that are placed on where we locate and often require 10 to 15-year leases with progressive rent payments and no way to get out of the agreement other than to pay for the full term of the lease. Left with no alternative to move, some operators have signed these predatory leases and are now stuck. Even if we want to move, the cost is prohibitive and DOH probably won't even allow it. The fact that Philadelphia operators are in some of your districts is a really good thing. When recreational cannabis is completely decriminalized at the state level and brought into the regulated space, currently operating medical dispensaries should become the first dispensaries to sell adult use cannabis. Through a process called license conversion, operators pay a large fee for the privilege of changing their license over to dual use, and that money is put into a social equity fund. When adult use passes, these legal regulated dispensaries will allow communities the opportunity to purchase safe, tested cannabis from experienced operators and counteract the size of the illicit market. Research supports this model of automatic conversion of medical dispensaries to adult use dispensaries. A study conducted by economists at the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia had results that imply that each additional dispensary in a neighborhood leads to a reduction of 17 crimes per month per 10,000 residents, which corresponds to roughly a 19% decline relative to the average crime rate over the sample period. A study conducted by Whitney Economics has further shown that local bans on legal adult use stores creates an automatic economic protection zone for illegal street dealers. There are more studies like these are only 2, and they all point to the same thing. Neighborhoods with dispensaries have fewer illegal street sales and general crime than neighborhoods without dispensaries. In communities that have not allowed this automatic process, adults with no regulated dispensaries in their communities buy cannabis from the illegal market, increasing crime in these communities. We only need to look to New York and Washington, D.C. as examples of this. And since all 3 districts have less access to public transportation to get a dispensary, to get to a dispensary outside of their neighborhood, there's little to no chance that they're going into other areas of the city to purchase cannabis. They'll just purchase it illegally. If we want to reduce crime in these 3 districts, currently existing medical dispensaries should be allowed to sell adult use right after cannabis is completely decriminalized. If the research is not convincing enough, a recent poll by New Jersey's Stockton University found that New Jersey consumers who buy from the illegal cannabis market are doing so because there is not a dispensary in their neighborhood. So they are buying illegal, untested cannabis in their neighborhood where there is no dispensary. And this was published in the Philadelphia Inquirer on April 26. Although allowing the 16 current operators in Philadelphia the ability to operate adult use when the time comes will help keep people in these neighborhoods from purchasing from the illegal market. Communities in Philadelphia that already have a medical dispensary have a built-in mechanism to keep this crime out of their neighborhood and to avoid this once cannabis, again, is completely decriminalized in the Commonwealth. Finally, I'll just add that this bill as written puts 5 of 16 dispensaries in a serious competitive disadvantage just for locating their businesses in councilmanic districts 4, 6, and 10. If these businesses are not allowed to sell adult use at the same time as the other 11, you will be putting them out of business. An adult use bill has not even been introduced by the state legislature this session. Even so, when a bill is introduced, it's going to take months to negotiate with passage at the earliest sometime next year. So basically, this bill is it's premature. It's not time to be having this conversation yet. The Pennsylvania Cannabis Coalition is asking council today to please grandfather currently operating dispensaries from having to go through additional steps to sell adult use cannabis. In the alternative, I'd ask the Rules Committee members today to hold this bill so we continue having conversations with the council members and their communities over the summer. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for your testimony, Councilman Curtis Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to first say that the level of communication most recently by the coalition through representatives that they had has been good. But I will say, in retrospect, how long have those dispensaries been open now? The ones in my district, the ones on City Avenue.
Councilman, I don't have the exact response for that, but I could say that the bill was passed in 2016, so I would imagine they probably opened in around sometime in 2017.
So when they were passed, it was strictly stated, specifically stated, that at some point in the future that we would never be at the point where we were trying to convert them into retail recreational establishments. I've heard that over and over again. And so even when we kind of were hesitant, kind of concerned about their location being so close to each other on City Avenue, it was usurped by the state that said local officials really can have their say, but the state would have their way. But since that time, on the positive note, I've gotten no criminal activity up there. It was fairly well managed and not a distraction day to day to the community. But conversely, there's been no community participation by those establishments. There's not been one block party, not one kid sent to school on a scholarship, not one activity that would make them good neighbors, to say the least. And I would state for the record that there is a big difference between a medical low-key dispensary and a retail outlet that is selling varieties of marijuana and, you know, kind of marketing it to the average Joe public. That is a whole different business model. Entirely different. And I would say to the notion that if we are putting them at a competitive advantage, why aren't they doing well now under the current model? And why is that not enough of a profit margin to sustain them and possibly keep them from going out of business? Those questions are a curiosity to me. And finally, I have not seen one, and you said it was premature, but not one community benefit agreement, not one business model, not 1 hour of operation, not one crime prevention aspect of it, not one employment benefit from it. And so for us not to take precautions as district council people to make sure that each and every step of this is well thought out, is well considered, and provided input by the public would be a dereliction of our duties. So I would say to my colleagues today that I'd rather err on the side of caution, quality of life for the community, and end with this, that in those same dispensaries, if you walk out the door, what are you more inclined to run into? A book, a vegetable, or a gun? What would you hit first? And I would say in those areas, some of them having, school challenges. The one thing we really don't need is another intoxicant. If I had to list the 10 things that make a good community, more marijuana is not one of them. And I want to know where my nearest hospital is. I want to know where my nearest grocery store is. I want to know where my place of employment is. And I want to know where my recreation outlet is. And those are the things in my mind, in a planning commission sense, a city planning sense, make a good community, not whether or not we have recreational marijuana. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Will the clerk please call the next witnesses for bill number the next participants for public comment for bill number 230443 and 23044. We have a significant amount of numbers, and so I'm going to ask for the participants to please be concise and brief, as we have a long list of participants that would like to provide comments on these two bills during this public comment section.
The first individual to speak on bills 230443 and 230447 is Megan Wiltis. Megan Wiltis, once you are connected, would you please state your name and begin your testimony? Hi, if Megan Wiltis is on, you may please state your name and begin your testimony.
Thank you. I am on. 1 second. My name is Megan Lewitz, and I'm commenting on bills 230443 and 230447. I am concerned about the zoning changes proposed for this parcel of land. I do not believe this is the correct way to generate affordable housing, and I do not believe the scale of the building in this rezoning is in the best interest of the neighborhood. A high-rise here will create infrastructure problems with parking and traffic for existing residents, not to mention the impacts to sewer and the removal of trees. It will also do nothing to truly improve quality. The city should be exploring things like community land trust models when thinking about the problem of affordable housing. This has worked successfully in Philadelphia at the Grace Townhomes, administered and developed via the Philadelphia Women's Community Revitalization Project and the Women's Community Justice Land Trust. I think this should be considered as a solution that empowers the residents themselves as stakeholders, rather than a private development model that empowers a distant corporation and its stockholders. I also do not believe that a decision like this should be made in this way. The community was very vocal in rejecting the requested variance for this parcel, and this feels like doing an end run around us in the direct contravention of what we, the neighborhood, want. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Next person up for public comment.
Next, we have Ed Johanningsmeyer.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, please begin your testimony.
Hello? Hello?
Mr. Johanningsmeyer, you are currently in the rules hearing. You may please state your name and begin your testimony.
Okay. Am I online now?
Yes, you are. Please go ahead and proceed, sir.
Okay, sure. Hello, Chairman Johnson. My name is Ed Johanningsmeyer. Thank you very much for hearing my concerns about the pending spot zoning ordinance. I've lived around the corner from the lot at 5000 Warrington Street in West Philadelphia, which is a proposed site for Omni's housing development for 34 years. Over the past few years, I've talked with many people about this project, and I visited Omni's developments in New York City and the Bronx and in Jamaica, Queens. I'm in favor of a community land trust model for developing the 5000 Warrington site, or for a somewhat smaller development of 25 to 50 units, possibly with mixed use and commercial zoning. In general, I'm in favor of rezoning to either CMX2 or RM1 residential multifamily instead of the RMX3, I think it is, that's proposed with this legislation. From my conversations, my sense is that the COVID-era Zoom meetings that were held about the proposal didn't give an accurate measure of the level of skepticism that exists in the community about the size and scale of the Warrington development. There's a real digital divide in our community, and I think many people were uncomfortable with the online format of these meetings, and so participation was low. Right now, I think trying to put this through with a spot zoning measure via a city council rules hearing is inappropriate. The implications of the pending ordinance just haven't been exposed to enough public debate in our neighborhood, in my opinion. Why can't there be an open town meeting style discussion of this where everyone has a voice? It seems to me that Councilperson Gauthier isn't doing the in-person work necessary to address the questions surrounding this project and help build support for it. From the conversations I've had, I think that Omni made a miscalculation about the appropriateness of the size and scale of this project. 103 units is just too large for this site. I think it's possible to be welcoming to affordable housing and still have concerns about the size of the development. So I think Omni made a miscalculation about the size and scale, or about size and scale with this particular project. But I think that's a problem for Omni's executives and shareholders to bear the consequences of, and not Cedar Park. Thank you, Councilperson Johnson and Councilperson Gauthier, for hearing my opinions on this.
Thank you very much, Ed. Will the next person for public comment, please begin your testimony.
Next to speak, we have Sarah Biker James.
Sarah, are you there?
Hello, this is Sarah.
Hey, Sarah, how you doing? Please begin your testimony.
Hello?
Yes. Hey, Sarah, you can start your testimony.
Thank you. Greetings, Chair Johnson and Rules Committee members. My name is Sarah Biker James, and my comment is in reference to Gautier's bills. I'm excited by this project to bring more affordable housing to the Cedar Park neighborhood that my family has enjoyed living in for the past 10 years. I live on 50th Street, directly across the street from this proposed development. My husband and I, along with many of our neighbors on 50th Street, participated in the community input process with the developer, Omni, to arrive at the most recent plan, and we were glad to have the chance to contribute to the design. No one got everything they wanted in terms of units, parking, and design, of course. The project is not perfect, but it is generally accepted and welcomed by many community members. I also want to point out that I recognize that if neighbors stand in the way of this project, the next development that comes along likely will not be affordable housing, which is something our city and our community actually needs. And I'd like to share that the property as it stands has been a headache for all of the years I've lived on this block. An unreachable owner, illegal dumping, high weeds. To close, I hope the RMX3 zoning change allows the currently approved design from Omni to be built, and that Omni continues to honor all commitments made in the planning process and to continue to work with immediate neighbors throughout the construction process. I and many neighbors are excited to support affordable housing and welcome new neighbors to our walkable, community-minded neighborhood, and we want to continue to be involved. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Will the clerk please call the next person for public comment?
Next for public comment, we have Ross Perfetti.
Good. And we want to continue to be involved. Thank you for your time.
Hi, Mr. Perfetti. If you could please mute the sound on the stream that you are watching, it will just help with interference, but you may state your name and begin your testimony.
Okay, great. Hey there, this is Ross Perfetti. Thank you so much for everyone for being here and listening to public testimony. I really appreciate your time. I live just 2 blocks from 5000 Warrington, and I do still have some concerns about the proposal to instate the RMX3 zoning to that area. I do understand this to be a rare designation and usually designated for high-rise residential building areas in Center City, not West Philadelphia. And while I understand that we need solutions for affordable housing in the city, I'm really not sure that deregulating and increasing height and density limits are the solution. And while Bill 23443 offers buffer zones and screening between parking and the surrounding single-family homes, I really see that as an aesthetic solution that does not address the damages to air and noise pollution caused by hundreds more cars on my blocks as well as my neighbors' blocks, as well as large container trucks that are going to be employed for regular trash removal. And so I really personally worry that these changes will affect both my personal health, as I have asthma, and increased car pollution in the area, and especially like large truck diesel pollution will really negatively impact myself and my neighbors, as well as my property value. And so I understand that the zoning change will effectively also grant permission to remove all existing trees on the 1000 block of 50th Street. And I just want to point out, like, tree cover in West Philadelphia is one of the reasons that I moved to West Philly from South Philly in the first place. And it would take decades and a lot of maintenance to plant new trees and bring them to the age in which they can offer the same benefits as mature trees. And also, I think considering that Philly Parks and Rec is actually trying to plant hundreds of trees to help with climate change resilience and water management in the city, I'm really wondering whether mature tree removal is actually consistent with citywide initiatives for residential well-being. I also have additional concerns that this project is entirely non-union and really cannot guarantee affordability, especially considering that zoning goes to the land, not the developer. So Omni can do what they want, including selling the newly zoned RMX3 land to another developer. And I really worry about this, considering that Omni has already sold most of its assets, totaling up to $3.5 billion. So I just wonder, like, whether this plan will follow through as intended. So I do think that we need to revisit this proposal. We need affordable housing for sure, but I think there are other solutions to affordable housing that don't compromise the environmental well-being of those already living nearby, especially not in West Philly, which is not a place where we have massive high-rise, high-density buildings. So just by way of conclusion, thank you so much again to the committee for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Will the clerk please call the next person for public comment?
Next, we have Cam Horvath.
Hello, this is Cam.
Go ahead, Cam. Begin your testimony.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Committee Chair Johnson and Rules Committee members. I am Cam Horvath, and I'm here to comment on Bills 230443 and 230447, which relate to zoning changes for the 5000 block of Warrington Ave in West Philly. My family lives across the street from this property on South 50th Street, down the street from a prior commenter, Sarah, and have participated in several community conversations over the past few years around zoning. While I entirely support the outcomes that these bills seek to achieve with additional and affordable housing, I am concerned whether there are enforceable parameters under the proposed bills that the owners of the property will be required to adhere to, which will all but guarantee the desired outcomes and community engagement. These concerns include committed affordable housing unit designation, design considerations, green space considerations, and overall population density considerations. While the proposed RMX3 zoning would maximize the opportunity to build in a timely manner, which is critically important, without answers to my concerns mentioned, RMX3 zoning seems out of place in this area of our neighborhood. As such, I seek clarification from Councilmember Gautier's office on the requirements that the owners of the property will be subject to with the RMX3 zoning. Thanks, and have a good day.
Thank you very much. Will the clerk please call the next person for public testimony?
Next, we have Sarah D. Georges.
Sarah, are you there? Will the clerk please call the next person for public comment?
Hello?
Sarah, are you there?
Yes. Hi, this is Sarah.
Hey, Sarah. This is Councilman Johnson, Chairperson of the Rules Committee. Please begin your public comment.
Hi, thank you. My name is Sarah D. Georges. I have lived around the corner from 5000 Warrington for over 10 years. I want to echo a lot of what public commenters have already said about the size and scale of this project being doesn't fit in with the rest of the neighborhood. I am also worried, as someone else said, about the tree removal and how this works with the Philadelphia tree plan for increasing tree coverage and also permeable space to help with flooding. I am also concerned. I study affordable housing, and if I believe there's one thing we learned from the University City townhomes, it's that affordable housing it really needs to have rules attached to it. There needs to be, a number of units that must be affordable, a number of years that it must remain affordable, and this proposed zoning change does not affect that at all. So I am totally in support of affordable housing, but it does need to have regulations along with it so that if Omni does decide to sell, we could still get affordable housing at that site. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Will the clerk please call the next person for public comment?
Next, for public comment, we have Ryan Clay.
Ryan, are you there?
Hello?
Hey, Ryan. Could you please start
Hey.
your comment?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, you can begin, sir.
Hi there. My name is Ryan Clay. I live near the property in question, and I just wanted to keep it short and sweet, not waste any of the time. It's too big of a project. It's going to completely change the caliber of the neighborhood. We need more housing, affordable. But most importantly, if they get permitting to go ahead, they absolutely have to include parking. It's completely unfair to people who live in the area if you just expect the streets around there to absorb the parking. Come out and see for yourselves. At night, there is nowhere to park nearby there, and adding all these units would be absolutely horrendous for the quality of life. Persons who are proposing this project or want to approve it, ask yourself, would you want 100 new cars on the streets near your home? Would you think that was a good idea? Or do you think there needs to be provision for parking for at least one car per unit? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Will the clerk please call the next person? Hello? Will the clerk please call the next person for public comment?
Next to speak, we have Melissa Johanningsmeyer.
Hello?
Melissa,
Hello?
Hey, Melissa, you can begin your public comment.
Hello, are you there?
Yeah,
Hello?
we're here, Melissa.
Okay.
Yes, Melissa, we're here. You can begin.
Okay. All right. There's a delay between you and me. All right. I've been following this project for its
Since its inception in 2021, I was told even before I went before the community that this project was going through no matter what. And that's pretty much what's happened. The first request from Omni was that there be a spot zoning. 3 years later, we are right back there. The council person has not listened. The proposals have not changed. It's too big. We need a better proposal. These companies are chasing money. They're leaving the big money in New York. The office buildings are no longer making money. If you read the article in the Wall Street Journal, where Nabin buys affordable housing portfolio from Omni, we don't even know who owns this property anymore. We need a better proposal. The ZBA, in their defense of their decision, said that this property, as an RM1, could hold 157 multi-family units, single-family units. It could do 75 lots. We can have affordable housing. We need a better proposal, and these guys have the money to do it. We just have to ask. This project has to become part of the community. We don't want it to become the community. We need a project that builds equity for everybody, and just not money for people from New York who have too much. That's all I have to say. Thank you. Bye.
You're welcome. Will the clerk please call the next person for public testimony?
Next, we have Andrew Stoll. Andrew Stoll, if you are connected, please state your name and begin your testimony. Okay. Next, we have Dominic Powell.
Hello, Andrew Stoll.
Mr. Stoll, you may state your name.
Hi, good afternoon. I just want to comment on these bills, and I'll be short and to the point. The bills are being... Hi, this is Andrew Stoll.
Hi, Mr. Stoll. If you could please actually mute the way you're watching the hearing on your browser, it's causing a little feedback because it's delayed. So if you could just state your name and give your testimony into your phone, that would be perfect. Thank you.
Yes, Andrew Stoll. I've muted my browser. I'll be short and to the point. I think, as everyone knows, the bills are being proposed to facilitate one development on one property. As you may know, there was a multifamily development proposed for this property. That application or that project went through the zoning process and was opposed by neighbors and successfully opposed by neighbors. Not so coincidentally, these bills are now proposed to circumvent the zoning challenge. So, should this go to court, this constitutes what we all know is clear spot zoning and won't be upheld in court. Accordingly, the bills shouldn't pass. One thing I would like to add is that the bills, interestingly, have an expiration period of 4 years, meaning that's going to pave the way for a single project on a single property, and then allow that development, and then only to create a non-conforming use in the coming years. And as we know, that this is bad land planning, and there's no land planning principles that are achieved by doing what is proposed. So with that, I thank you for your time and take that into consideration with these bills.
Thank you. Will the clerk please call the next person for public comment?
Next, we have Dominic Powell. Dominic Powell.
Hello.
Please begin your testimony, Dominic.
Hello. My name is Dominic Powell, and I live on the 900 block of 50th Street, immediately across from the proposed overlay district. I have owned my home here for the past 6 years, and I strongly support Bills 443 and 447. Thank you to the Rules Committee for the opportunity to comment on this legislation, and thank you to the council staff for coordinating my testimony. The proposed development here would tremendously improve public safety in the surrounding neighborhood. The junkyard currently at the site has always served as a social dead zone in which people feel comfortable committing crime. Only a few months ago, I witnessed a severe domestic violence incident where a woman was beaten and then pushed out of a vehicle in front of the junkyard. Abandoned vehicles have been caught or set on fire there. People linger by the footbridge over the regional rail all hours of the night. Reckless drivers attempt to slide their cars around the curve at 51st and Warrington. As the father of 2 small children, I welcome the social space this development would create, where dangerous criminal acts cannot be so easily committed. It will make our neighborhood safer, more social, and economically prosperous. Families who live in this development would spend money at the many local businesses, enjoy the neighborhood's many parks and playgrounds, and contribute to the neighborhood's quality of life. I also believe that the legislation should be amended to permit additional housing units or commercial space and fewer parking spaces. This neighborhood is incredibly rich in public transit, with 3 different trolley lines, the 64 bus line, and a regional rail stop only blocks away. 30th Street Station is less than 15 minutes away by trolley. I can walk to buy all of my essential needs and enjoy many other restaurants and small businesses. This is an excellent neighborhood for people without cars, and I hope the City Council allows more of them to live here. On that note, I believe the City Council should support people over parking. The development around public transit will make life less expensive for all Philadelphians who won't have to spend so much on volatile gas prices or all the other costs of owning a car. Transit-oriented development will make our city more affordable. It will grow our businesses, it will clean our air, and it will be safer for our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Will the clerk please call the next person for public comment?
Our final speaker for public comment, we have Deanna Jones. Deanna Jones, once you're connected, you can begin your testimony and state your name.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. 267.
Mr. Chair, if we do not have that last speaker, then we have concluded public comment.
Is anyone else here to testify whose name has not yet been called? Are there any other questions or comments from members of the committee? Hearing none, I want to thank all the witnesses for their participation today. We value your input. I now invite all panel and witnesses to please disconnect from the meeting before we go into our public meeting. We'll now pause the proceedings briefly as multiple participants leave the hearing. This concludes the public hearing on the committee. We will now convene the public meeting to consider the action to be taken on the bills before this committee today. Will the clerk please call a roll to take attendance? Members that are in attendance will please indicate they are present when their names are called. Also, please say a few brief words when responding so that your image will be displayed on the screen when you speak. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Curtis Jones Jr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am present.
Councilmember Cindy Bass.
Good afternoon. I am still present.
Councilmember Brian O'Neill. And Councilmember Catherine Gilmore Richardson.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, colleagues. I am present.
The chair recognizes Councilman Curtis Jones for a motion on the bill, or for the motion on the amendment to bill number 230440.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I offer an amendment to bill number 230440. Copy of that amendment has been circulated to all members of the committee, and I move for the adoption of an amendment to Bill number 230440.
Second.
The chair recognizes Councilwoman Cindy Bass, who seconds the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded that the amendment to Bill number 230440 be approved. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The aye has it, and the motion to Bill number 230440 has been approved. The amendment to Bill number 230440 has been approved. The chair recognizes Councilman Jones for a motion to Bill number 230440 as amended.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Bill number 230440 be moved with a favorable as amended, be moved from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at our next session of council.
Second.
The chair notes for the record that Councilwoman Cindy Bass seconds the motion. That has been moved and properly seconded that Bill number 230440 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries. The chair recognizes Councilman Jones for a motion to Bill number 230407.
Thank you again, Mr. President. I move that Bill number 230407 be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at our next session of council.
Second.
The chair notes for the record that Councilwoman Cindy Bass seconds the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded that Bill number 230407 be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it, and the motion carries.
Mr.
The chair
Chair,
recognizes Councilman.
Mr. Chair, Councilman O'Neill, if anything I missed, I was having trouble getting unmuted. So I've been on the call.
Councilman Brian O'Neill will be voted aye
on all bills
that have recently just been passed.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. The chair recognizes Councilmember Jones for a motion on the amendment to Bill number 230437.
Thank you, Mr. President. I offer an amendment to Bill number 230437. A copy of that amendment has been circulated to all members of council. I move for the adoption of the amendment to Bill number 230437 and be approved.
Second.
The chair notes for the record that Councilmember Cindy Bass seconds the motion. Has been moved and properly seconded that the amendment to Bill number 230437 be approved. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. The chair recognizes Councilmember Jones for a motion on Bill number 230437 as amended.
Again, thank you, Mr. President. I move that Bill number 230437 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at our next session of council.
Second.
The chair notes for the record that Councilwoman Bass seconds the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded that Bill number 230437 as amended be reported for this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. The chair recognizes Councilman Jones for a motion on the amendment to Bill number 230455.
Mr. Chairman, I offer an amendment to Bill number 230455. A copy of that amendment has been circulated to all members of council, and I move for the adoption of amendment to Bill number 230455 be approved.
Second.
The chair notes for the record that Councilman Cindy Bass seconds the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded that the amendment to Bill number 230455 be approved. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. An amendment to Bill number 230455 has been approved. The chair recognizes Councilmember Jones for a motion on Bill number 230455 as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that bill number 230455 be, as amended, be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at our next session of council.
Second.
The chair notes for the record that Councilwoman Cindy Bass seconds the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded that Bill number 230455 as amended be reported from this committee with the favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it, and the motion carries. The chair recognizes Councilman Jones for a motion on Bill number 230412.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. I move that bill number 230412 be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at our next session of council.
Second.
The chair notes for the record that Councilwoman Cindy Bass seconds the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded that Bill number 230412 be reported from this committee with the favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. The chair recognizes Councilman Jones for a motion on Bill number 230446.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that bill number 230446 be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading at our next session of council.
Second.
The chair notes for the record that Councilwoman Cindy Bass seconds the motion. As been moved and properly seconded that Bill number 230446 be reported from this committee with the favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The
Aye.
ayes have it, and the motion carries. The chair recognizes Councilman Jones for a motion on the amendment to Bill number 230447.
Again, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I offer an amendment to bill number 230447. A copy of that amendment has been circulated to all members of council, and I move for the adoption of the amendment to bill number 230447 and be approved.
Second.
The chair notes for the record that Councilmember Cindy Bass seconds the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded that the amendment to Bill number 230447 be approved. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. An amendment to Bill number 230447 has been approved. The chair recognizes
Councilman Johnson. I'm just saying, Councilman Quill is present, voting aye on
447 as amended. Everybody, please mute your screen if you're not speaking.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that bill number 230447 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation. I further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at our next session of council.
Second.
The chair notes for the record that Councilmember Cindy Bass seconds the motion and has been moved and properly seconded that Bill number 230447 as amended be reported from this committee with the favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. The chair recognizes Councilmember Jones for a motion on the amendment to Bill number 230443.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I offer an amendment to bill number 230443. A copy of that amendment has been circulated to all members of council, and I move for the adoption of the amendment to bill number 230447 and be it approved.
Second.
1 second. The chair notes for the record that Council Member Cindy Bass seconded the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded that Bill number 230447 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. The chair recognizes Councilman Jones for a motion on the amendment to bill number 230443.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I move that bill number 230443 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation. Further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at our next session of council.
Second.
The chair notes for the record that Councilmember Cindy Bass seconds the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded that the amendment to bill number 230443 be approved. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. The chair recognizes Councilmember Jones for a motion on bill number 230443 as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, but I think could you check? I think we just did that one and voted it out. If I'm not right, I will repeat it.
I'm gonna back up. The last one was 230443 for motion on the amendment to this bill, and this one is 230443 as amended.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that bill number 230443 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at our next session of council.
Can I get a second?
Second.
The chair notes for the record that Councilmember Cindy Bass seconds the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded that bill number 230443 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. The chair recognizes Councilman Jones for a motion on the amendment to bill number 230448.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I offer an amendment to bill number 230448. A copy of that amendment has been circulated to all members of council, and I move for the adoption of the amendment to bill number 230448 be approved.
Second.
The chair notes for the record that Councilmember Cindy Bass seconds the motion has been moved and properly seconded that the amendment to bill number 230448 be approved. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries, and the amendment to bill number 230448 has been approved. The chair recognizes Councilmember Jones for a motion on bill number 230448 as amended.
Mr. Chairman, I move that bill number 230448 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation. Further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at our next session of council.
Second.
The chair notes for the record that Councilmember Cindy Bass seconds the motion that has been moved and properly seconded that bill number 230448 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, the ayes have it, and the motion carries. The chair recognizes Councilmember Jones for a motion on bill number 230442.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. I move that bill number 230442 be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at our next session of council.
Second.
The chair notes for the record that Councilmember Cindy Bass seconds the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded that Bill number 230442 be reported from this committee with the favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it, and the motion carries. The chair recognizes Councilmember Jones for a motion on the amendment to Bill number 230410.
Mr. Chairman, I offer an amendment to Bill number 230410. A copy of that amendment has been circulated to all members of the committee, and I move for the adoption of the amendment to Bill number 230410 be approved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Second.
A bunch of seconds. The chair notes for the record that Councilman O'Neill seconds the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded that the amendment to Bill number 230410 be approved. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. The motion carries, and the amendment to Bill number 230410 has been approved. The chair recognizes Councilmember Jones for a motion on the Bill number 230410 as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that Bill number 230410 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation. Further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at our next session of council.
Second.
The chair notes for the record that Councilmember O'Neill seconds the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded that Bill number 230410 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it, and the motion carries. This concludes the Committee on Rules Committee for today. If there are no additional remarks, I want to thank everybody for your attendance, and good job, everyone who introduced bills today.
Good job, Mr. Chairman. Well done.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr.
Good
Chair.
job.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Brett.